Oh, my. Catch up with me.
My name's Rudy. I'd like to welcome you folks to the Juliet-class Soviet Submarine 484. It's 300 feet long, 32 feet wide. We have 6 4-torpedo tubes right up there at the bow. You can see there's a door and a half over the right side, and there's 3 on the other side. The bad thing about those torpedoes is when they were fired off, they had to wait till they got back before to reload, and they had to be reloaded to the front. Mainly because when the design of the ship was made, it didn't put any design in there for reloads for the front torpedo room. The black tiling you see on there, the big black squares, is actually acoustic tiling, and not everyone, of course, knows what acoustic tiling is. All that is this, neoprene rubber. All this neoprene rubber is just nothing more than synthetic rubber. And this whole boat is covered with it. And what it does is it'll go ahead and not reflect sonar waves. It'll go ahead and trap them and not reflect them back until you have the baffles on the back. So this whole boat is covered with this. And this stuff right here probably weighs about 20 pounds that I'm sitting holding right here. So you can imagine 20 pounds in about what? Oh, 1 square foot. You can imagine how much that weighs on the whole boat. That is quite a lot. Okay, up here we have 4 dive planes, one on both sides. They just control the downward and upward motion of the boat when they're underwater. On top here by the flag you have the sonar. There were 16 of these boats made from 1961 to 1968, and it got decommissioned in 1994. The door here is the hole for the anchor, and it doesn't use a real big anchor, but that's what they used if they wanted to anchor out in the bay rather than come pierside. On top of the sail up there, you'll see the antenna partially extended. The whole front end of that is called the clamshell. It would swing open. The radar would extend when they were on the surface to acquire targets for their missiles. They had to be on the surface to fire their missiles. The missiles are located in these long doors in front and behind the sail. They angle up at about a 20-degree angle and fire off using solid rocket boosters, which is why you see the holes back behind the missile doors. Those are blast deflectors. They would move the blast away from the boat. Okay, now when they fired off, they had a range of 950 miles. As I said, they used solid rocket boosters to get started. They go up to 13,000 feet. The solid rocket boosters would drop off. Turbojets would take over and carry it to the target at Mach 1.1. Mighty quick. Each one of those missiles, they only carried 4 on board, had a 350 kiloton nuclear warhead. Each one of those warheads was 100 times more powerful than the bombs that were dropped at Hiroshima or Nagasaki. So you can imagine the big bang that would get. Big one, huh? Yeah, big one. Okay, when they fired the missiles off, that kind of gave away their position on the surface. They'd lower the antenna, close the clamshell, lower the missile doors, captain would order dive. 43 seconds later, the boat was underwater. In 43 seconds, the boat took on 700 tons of water in order to dive. So that's a lot of water in just a short amount of time. As we go on board, we have helmets for you folks to wear who are over 5'6", because we suggest that you wear them. There's a lot of small spaces on there. Okay, here in the forward torpedo room, right behind you is the 6 forward torpedo tubes that I was telling you about. We have one of the doors open so you can actually see just how big that torpedo tube actually is. Each of the torpedoes carry 250 pounds of explosives. They were 21 inches in diameter and go through the water at about 55 miles an hour. They were mighty quick. The object of this sub was to go around and harass carrier groups, such as battle groups on top of smelling real bad. Their clothes didn't get much better either. Over here in the first rack, we have the emergency escape suit. If you're down at about 400 feet and you had to get out of here because the boat was sinking, this suit was put on. There was one for everybody on board. They went ahead and
A picture of him coming.
Really?
That is a little.
Yeah, he done a lot better.
Yeah, well, he's a young man.
yeah. Is that everybody back there?
Yes.
Okay. That first stateroom on your right-hand side is the political officer's stateroom. His job on board was to keep the proper communist attitude on board. He would keep a file on everyone, including the captain. He was also the promotions officer. He would look up your name in his file when you were doing a promotion, and if you had good stuff written down, you got your promotion. If not, you went back to work regardless. Okay, on the opposite side of the passageway, you'll see he also had a sink all to himself, which isn't all that great. Now over here on the opposite side of the passageway is the stateroom, second in command. He basically just had a bed and a blanket. That's all he had. So he was basically very close to the captain because those two were very important on the boat. The political officer was actually more powerful than the captain, because the political officer could go ahead and override the captain at any time. So you've got to remember that. Now as we go this way, watch your head coming through here. This is the lowest point of the whole boat you have to watch out for. We don't want you to bang your head. I hate to be pushing too many people off to the side. And then we'll go on into the control room.
I got too much stuff.
Wow. That's pretty big. Ooh.
What is somebody living there?
Yeah. They were sleeping there, looked like they moved.
I wish I could just...
That room we passed on the way in here to the control room is the communications room and the chart room where they lay their charts out to find out where they were at sea. That ladder leads directly up to the top of the sail, 42 feet straight up. Halfway up there is the battle bridge where the captain and executive officer would be during general quarters. That's why they had to be positioned so very close from their staterooms to the middle of the boat. That way they could be there in a heartbeat, because it was very important for them to be almost the first ones on scene. Here in the control room, you're dead center of the middle of the boat. There's 2 decks above us and 2 decks below us. Most of the crew actually slept down on the second. They had 3 toilets on board, 1 up forward down below, 1 underneath me, and 1 back aft in the aft torpedo room we'll see as we leave. There's about 10 people that worked up here. Everybody up here had to know everyone else's job. There was just no way around it. In case somebody was sick, somebody else could take over. So it was very important that everybody here knew what all these valves did, what all the machinery did, what all the buttons did. It was really, really intense on the training for that. Over here is sonar. Sonar would be talking to the gentleman who's sitting right there, because he would be sitting where the helm is, where they drive the boat from. They didn't have a yoke like you see in the old movies. They had 2 levers. The left lever controlled the rudder. The one on the right behind you is actually the one that controls the dive planes. So therefore you can imagine just sitting there and just having to have your arms spread out and get everything just right with your controls. So it was not fun. It was not fun at all. But you had to remember that these guys, this boat was not built for comfort. It was built just to do the job. There was air conditioning on board, but it only kept it at around 82 degrees in here. What do you want? You stink, it's 82, no problem, right? Around the corner behind me, we have the radar room, and we have a periscope up for you folks to take a look at up. I'll check and make sure.
All right, get through there, Ron.
Wait a minute.
Let me see if I can get through.
Okay, when we go into engineering, there's white lights that come down here left and right. Watch out for them.
Oh!
And then we'll send this 4 steps down. Be careful, okay? Ready?
4 steps down.
Huh?
4 steps down, be careful. Watch the pipe. That's
one on my right and one way over to my left. They're actually 12 cylinders each cylinder, which is big around as a basketball. The middle diesel right here will go ahead and charge the battery for 8 hours on the surface. Remember I told you it had to be up for 8 hours every 36 to recharge. The exhaust will go out these white pipes. Notice that the white pipes were not insulated. So it only got to be 130 to 160 degrees in here. The 6-man crew in here would have to be relieved every 15 minutes in order to keep from dehydrating to death. So it was really not exactly the greatest of all duties. Now we're going to go ahead from here, and we're going to go from diesel power to electric power, and I volunteer you to give me a hand in the next section. Aren't I nice? Okay. Let me go ahead and kick on the motors, and we'll get going again. Actually, those motors about 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
And it was only on idle. Can you imagine if it was up to about 4,000 RPM? It'd kill you. Okay, here's the electrical room where they would pull power directly from the batteries. These terminals on the left and right control the left shaft and the right shaft. Underneath, you have 3,500 horsepower electric motors pulling power directly off the batteries to drive the boat. Well, what's your name?
Becky.
Well, what Becky has done is she's been so good volunteer to be an engineer for a second. Ooh, how about that? Well, what I'm going to have Becky do is that we're at half speed ahead on the right shaft. All I'm going to have her do is just move it to stop. Just to give you an idea how hard it is. Not exactly easy, is it?
No.
Mainly because the fact those contacts had to slam into each other to make sure there was good contacts. That way you wouldn't break the motor. You break the motor, captain comes back here, breaks you, sends you out the aft torpedo tube. You know, no life preserver, no nothing. He has to call the Polo Bureau, say, I need a new motor. They say, fine. When you get back to port, pack your bags, you're off to Siberia. Okay? This right here is nothing more than a backup in case either one of these two terminals goes ahead and craps out. Okay? It's very, very hard to understand the Russian philosophy, but they have a backup for the backup for the backup. Almost everything has 2 to 3 backups. Why? I don't know, but that's the Russians for you. They overdid it all. Thank you so much for helping. Now, what this is back over here, the engineers would sleep here, and these are the racks that they'd sleep in. Now, remember I said up in the forward torpedo room they only had about 3 inches of foam rubber, and I told you that there was air conditioning on board. Well, the guys in the second and third rack, I don't think that mattered too much, because if you'll notice, they slept in between motors that were running and hot. So air conditioning really wasn't a worry of theirs. It was not fun. Remember, the boat was not designed for crew comfort at all. Okay, as we go through this last hatch, when you get through, look to your right, you'll see the one toilet we have on board, and we'll be in the aft torpedo room. Watch your heads.
Go ahead. I'm too slow getting through. Go ahead.
Okay, here in aft torpedo, this is where the crew would accumulate after their duties to come in and kind of relax, because this actually had a little bit more room than what you might think. And they also went ahead and would try and get away from the ship's duties. Now, back here in the aft torpedo room, the torpedo tubes behind me were filled at all times with torpedoes, just like this one right here. And they also had 4 reloads back here. This is the only area that had reloads. You have 4 reloads, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are what's known as sub-killers. because they were designed for American submarines to hit them. They're 15 feet long, 1,500 pounds, 250 pounds of Torpex, which is a combination of TNT and nitroglycerin put together. Steam-driven, counter-rotating screws in the back to make it quick and quiet. It'd go up to 15 miles at 70 miles an hour. Now the idea of this is that if this ever exploded above water, it could level 2 square city blocks.
I gotta back up just a hair for that one. Get my hair on.
We're going to put it on.
Yeah. Hey, I can see Tampa.
This boat out here small.
Boy,
Look at them, yeah. Out here paddling.
I can just barely see that boat.